Um, well, I don't know if I'm an expert, but I'm only going to speak as somebody who watches Hindi films and who has always watched them and loved them, even at the time when they were not considered something you should watch because they were considered, oh, they are just masala, formula, how can you like them? But I always loved them. And I want to say that ever since I started seeing Hindi films, which was from when I was in school, the one thing that always struck me about them was that no matter how much of a masala film, how forgettable it was, you know, most of the time the heart was in the right place. If two young people were in love and their parents were opposed to the wedding because of caste or because of religion or because of disparity in status, Hindi films always told us that that's rubbish. You fight for your love. You fight your parents. You don't give in to things like, I will not marry this person because he's of a different caste or different religion or community or whatever. I loved the way the films always had this, they showed the mosaic of India. Even if sometimes it was a stereotype, it was still good. Even if we had a Rahim Chacha who was always the good guy, or if we had a character playing a very hearty and generous Sardarji in the film, I think these were important coded messages that were going out to the audience, that you cannot be prejudiced, you cannot be bigotry, we are all really one. And I think it was mirrored in, as you have mentioned also, it was mirrored within the film industry itself. You gave one or two examples. I'll give one more example. For instance, take a beautiful bhajan from Baiju Bawra, Man Tarpat Hari Darshan. It's a lovely bhajan written by Shakil Badayuni, music by Naushad Ali, sung by Rafi. And what a moving bhajan it is. Even if you see a really hardcore masala film like Ganga Ki Saugandh, which is a dacoit film of Amitabh Bachchan's and not one of his memorable films, in the film Amitabh is a Brahmin boy and he's in love with a Dalit girl played by Rekha, and they are in love and that's fine, and he stands by her. And so I always feel that Hindi films always had their heart in the right place when it came to something like national integration. Whether you have a song like Na Hindu Banega Na Musalman Banega, Tu Insan Ki Aulad Hai Insan Banega, you have an Amar Akbar Anthony, or you have a My Name is Khan, or you have Veer Zara, even if you have Bobby, where there's a young Christian girl in Goa who falls in love with Rishi Kapoor. So I always felt that these were very important not values, but a very important view in some way that the popular cinema of Bombay showed to its viewers. And I think despite people's cynicism, and I'm sure a lot of people were cynical about these films, I think these messages or these things just sort of enter your psyche somewhere. And they lodge themselves, and that's why even years later when you hear a snatch of a song like this, or like a song from Jagriti Hum Laaye Hain Tufan Se Kishti Nikal Ke, I mean really you feel something inside you. So there are these songs that stay with you, there are those scenes that stay with you, and you may not even be aware of it, but they have entered into your consciousness in some way. So this one thing I really felt that Hindi films did very beautifully. The other thing is that these films, I think, came out of of a kind of worldview of the country that they were in. I mean, it came out of a belief in unity in diversity or national integration. When you had a film where there was propaganda, it would probably have never worked, and I don't think it ever worked. The impulse had to be it had to be a generous impulse. It could not be a propagandist impulse for any, at the behest of any particular government or minister or whatever. It had to come from the heart to be effective. And I think so much of Hindi cinema has been that. Today, I think, as Aruna pointed out, it has changed a lot. We don't have those kind of movies anymore, like an Amar Akbar, Anthony. We don't make those movies anymore. We are making different kind of films, often better films. And a lot of the films, even today, they're, you know, as she said, they're bringing different parts of the country to you. Because for the longest time, Hindi films were like a mini India of their own. They were not set in any region, or, you know, it was like a microcosm of India. Somebody was just called Ramesh or Neeta, and you never knew where they came from. Probably North India, I'm guessing, but they were like a small world of their own, like a mini India of their own. Now I think we have a lot of, you know, we set characters in specific regions. They have backstories. There is much more granular slicing of, you know, what a film looks like, who are its characters, and how it's all set in a particular place. And I think that's important too. But, you know, when I see a film like Bajrangi Bhaijaan, I feel really happy, because I feel, okay, somewhere the big blockbuster masala film is alive and it's not yet gone. And I think you need these pan-Indian films with a pan-Indian narrative, you know, with perhaps big stars to make them, you know, attractive to audiences, with great music, which I am a big fan of. And I think Hindi film songs are the most unique treasure we have in the world. And I don't understand filmmakers who say, oh, why do we have songs in films and we should have songless films? I mean, sure, if you're making a thriller, maybe you don't need a song. But there's something so special to our films, and it is the most magnificent legacy of Hindi films. So I don't know why we should even want to wish that away. And I think it's like the soundtrack of our lives. And particularly when you have a song which is a patriotic song or a song about national integration, there is the feeling it evokes in you is so special. And, you know, you can feel close to tears, or you can feel really moved or really touched. And that's a really special quality. So I actually, while I welcome the new Hindi films, because I'm really familiar more with Hindi films, I've seen a few films from other parts of the country, but obviously many more Hindi films. So while I welcome the fact that we are making these very different and engaging films, and are not making formula films and cliched films any longer, I sometimes long for those films with simple messages and generous hearts and a kind of warmth, and, you know, where you always fought for the underdog and you were for India and for the integration of India. I really miss those films, and I'm waiting for the next one to come. Thank you.